thankfully, is moving ahead right now. It reminds me of something like during 1966 and 1967. I don't know if I remember, I was telling you that all of us worked on a job at Longview Fiber, and we all got off work, and when we saw those big pretty Cadillacs coming down the street, we would all just look with our mouth open, you know, and it was so far off that it was almost, it was possible, but it wasn't likely to happen. But within, by 1966, for some reason, which was part of destiny too, the reason I started selling marijuana was a diversion. The white man had some of my friends, because I had all this black talk, and I took the people to the temple, you know, Carlo Brothers. I just did it on my own every Sunday. And so the way the police were seeing it was, we'll divert him. That's what that borrowing $200, then repaying me with bags and bags of marijuana, you know. And I just sold the marijuana. After I sold the marijuana, I said, hey, where can you get more of this? You know, I mean, just imagine they must have gave me about $500 worth. And it was in big bags, already packaged up. So I just went around and sold it. I mean, almost just like that. That was the white man having my friends up next to me try to divert me away from this black nationalism. Because I was a little local, you know, all we did was got off work and lift weights, and didn't drink. Now, they wasn't used to nobody not eating pork, not drinking, not all that stuff. They wasn't even used to them. That was a threat. Because when I left, I was drinking wine like everybody else, you know, and white port and lemon juice and all that. Okay, I'll try to speed up. But that thing that they was trying to divert me from was the exact thing that I was preparing me for doing this job right here. And I remember mentioning to some of our friends here that 66 to 67, they had 65. Four Tops had a song, I think. Just Ask the Lonely or something like that. Okay. When you move up, I was still living right in our neighborhood and everything. But now I got the same thing we was dreaming about before. Pretty Cadillac, brand new Cadillac, pretty clothes, all that stuff. And one day, I was riding with one of my friends, and I went over to San Francisco. He was off work that day. And he asked me, do you do this every day? It was just going across the bridge to buy something and come on back. I said, yeah, that's what I do all the time. Another one of my friends, I happened to see him. I picked him up late at night. And before we went home, we stopped at one of them all-night restaurants. Let's say it was Denny's or something like that. And he was asked the same, do you do this all the time? And I thought about it. I said, yeah, I do it every night. Because I'm coming home from hustling and I stop and eat and, stuff like that. That's just normal. Every time that we came to, let's call it a cliff or a transition. I always stepped right off the cliff. I stepped right off. And every time, some kind of way, wings got hooked up. I never hit the bottom, or even if you do, if you hit the bottom, probably something soft gonna happen. Even if you hit hard, as long as you get up, it don't make no difference. But what I'm trying to say is, out of all the transitions, nobody ever stepped off with me. Out of all the history I talk about, nobody ever stepped off. Nobody ever took that risk. And we all did the same thing. It was just the strangest thing, when I think about it now, that nobody ever had the trust, had the whatever it takes to step off into the future, to claim a future. That's all it is. Could you turn that air on just a little bit? Or, excuse me, no, go ahead. You turn on this for a minute. I mean, you know, white man is always, no, this stuff is real. Yeah, you could turn it off in a minute, inshallah. Okay, anyway. This thing about destiny, risk-taking, is very serious. Because this idea of transformation and transcendence, you can't transform unless you take a risk. And you definitely cannot transcend the things, the gravitational pull of the world, the gravitational pull of friends, the gravitational pull of history, the gravitational pull of all of those things. You cannot transcend them. You cannot transform unless you take a risk, unless you take a chance. And throughout history, every time I think about it, nobody ever stepped off, but nothing ever happened. It was all wonderful. Let's not say. Every lesson that you learn comes from usually mistakes. And the biggest mistakes you make teach you the biggest lessons. So although those things that was happening in Oakland was not big mistakes, all we did was we took our wealth, transformed it into economics, and everybody knows that it was economic enterprise, black economic enterprise, East Oakland Enterprises. That's what it was. Okay, now to everybody else, that was stepping off into a bold future, because everybody was trained to look out for themselves and not want to share with everybody else. When I look back at the history, there's nobody, financially, there's nobody during that period doing any better than any of us, and we look for reasons to give stuff away. That was, or look for ways to share and spread the wealth. That's the reason that they clamped down on East Oakland and shipped everything to North Oakland. I say that every week, but I want to get that in people's mind. That what happened just happened in Oakland was for that reason. To shift, to make sure there's no black Islamic economic enterprise zone Because you got to remember, how do they feel about this? Masjid, school of business, right? That's economic enterprise. One supporting the other. All coming out of the masjid and then living close together. Do you realize Oakland and here, some of the people who are not, even some of my family, they're not very bright, some of them. And they ask, do you still have any property in D.C.? Like, I don't know what the word is, I don't know how crazy they are, but people may be thinking that the stuff happened in Oakland was permanent. My brother called me when I was just getting out of the hospital. You still have the place up there on MacArthur, the educational center. And he was saying he wanted to buy it. Yeah, you can turn. I said, of course I have it. And see, this is so silly. The people in Oakland, the Negroes in Oakland, don't have a right to do anything they're doing. If they want to hold it up in court a while, we'll hold it up in court, so what? But they don't have a right to do nothing they did. The court's already said that they don't have a right to do anything they did. But this stuff about us, stepping off into the future, providing the means for people to actually see what they can do and what they can produce and what they don't need to fear and how they can deal with this governmental system known as the United States of America. So our job is a serious job. Now we see how they, what they have. Did I show you all this stuff before? Homegrown. Here's abdul-alim. In other words, they name the people, they give them a reputation, and that's who they are. This was a few years ago. I don't think he makes a lot of, I don't think he gets around that much anymore. Rapping Jihad, Abu Mansur al-Amriki. If that's not the police, I don't know who it is. It's okay. It's the police, that's all. They call him, this is Rapping Jihad. Here's your homeboy. Your moderate Imam, whatever that means. It's the only real brother in here. Anwar Allah. The traitor. Adam Yahi something. Adam. This must be a white boy, born talking about that Al-Qaeda and some bull crap. They make up their own people. Now these is real Yahoos. This is from Jewish to jihadists. Yusuf al-Khattab. I saw them on TV and they was trying to talk to them. The gangster talked to the Muslims and the Muslims was running away from them. Like, you are a Jew. Brains and the whip. You may not have heard of these people, but they make, you ever heard of Jihadi Jane and all them people? Who the hell are they? And here's the dear brother, he's the propagandist. That's me. There's As-Sabiqun right there. The point is, this is what the hell we got to get. We got to get charge of our own destiny. The United States control the world. Saudi Arabia helps them control the Muslims. And they do to us what they want to do because they arrange it. And what people think about Islam is what the television tell them. The beautiful way of life known as Islam. So we have to, we want to, this is our mission. It's a public relation to teach people, number one, that you don't have to be afraid of America. And this is how to do it. Number two, this is how beautiful Islam is. Or vice versa. This is how beautiful Islam is. Now this is how you deal with the United States government of America. And in the process, Masjid, school, business, geographical integrity is a part of our makeup. That all is a serious threat to the system and to the people. We have proved and written so much stuff that it's unbelievable. The passage stand, now passage is not nonviolent. We mean passage stand that our people take it's not nonviolent resistance. What we're doing is nonviolent resistance. But the way is clear. If we work with churches, even some synagogues, Masjid, the way is clear, the message is clear. But it seems like the old plague of self-image and all of those things are really still plaguing our people. Because if you have a history of, say, 10 big events in life, and they've never caused any harm, all they've caused is good, caused elevation. You would think people would be flocking. That when you step off the cliff, they'd be willing to step off because they know the angels they always have been there with wings to fly. Something, stuff like that. It's always happened like that. There's never been a tragedy. You know what I mean? I mean like tragedy, like what people call tragedy. There just never has been one. It's been things that people wouldn't necessarily like. They might look at stuff that happened to me as tragic, but I ain't never looked at it as tragic. If I had to run off from the U.S., I'd just run to Africa to get way away for a while. Then I just came back over here and got busy. You know, I did have a little strange experience. When I flew from Scandinavia, Denmark to Paris. And then from Paris, I flew to Mexico. But I was looking at the map and I just drew a line that it would be over the Caribbean and all that. But the doggone plane flew over the top, over the United States of America. And it landed in Dallas, Texas. I mean, I didn't go, you just walk off the plane and you're in transit. So nobody asked me nothing, I didn't have to, But it was a start for about 2-3 months. I said, Dallas, Texas, good God Almighty. And then, you know, remember, like, it's like the thing about the Qibla. Some say the Qibla is this way, some say it's that way. We say that is right in the middle, do what you want. But for direction, it's southeast. But for distance, it's northeast, it's over this way. So they fly up, you know, you fly up, the earth is like a pear. It's not like a globe, it's not round, it's like a pear. So you fly up over, a lot of times, they fly up over the North Pole, whatever it is, and they fly down, because it's shorter than going all the way around that 24,000, that distance. So anyway, but I got to Mexico and I got busy, then moved to South America. Each one of those things are help in the development. When I was sure that things wasn't right, I just stopped doing what I was doing in South America. I just stopped, said I quit. Because the reason I was doing this was to help finance certain things. That's not happening anymore. But that didn't stop us from the revolution. All we had to do is figure out how we're going to do this now. So you have a couple of years of, we call it wandering in the wilderness. You're trying to figure out what the next stage of movement will be. Well, guess what? By that time, Boss Man then took charge of every one of every movement. Boss Man is there. Every school, every lecture hall, everything. Every group, not MSA, but every doggone BSU, Black Student Union, is flooded with the police. Just like, it's like you can't get all the people you can get right now to open their mouth is people in Chicago, people up in New York wearing perms and everything, and on the white folks' TV. What are they? Revolutionaries? Well, it's a new kind of revolution. What I'm saying is the whole slate is wide open. But guess what?